You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that. Welcome into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of minor league baseball. It is nearly Thanksgiving week, and we're huddled into the throes of late fall, sort of, I guess. I don't know. It's barely been, it hasn't snowed here. Today is like the first just kind of like gray, miserable, cold day in Denver, Colorado. My name is Tyler Mon. Sam Dykstra and Benjamin Hiller in New York City. What's the middle of November been like well, Sam's been off gallivanting. What are things like around MLB HQ, fellas?
Yeah, we're kind of in that cold, gray part of November where it feels like everybody that I rub shoulders with on the subway, in the office, on the street is just coming to terms with the earlier setting sun and just realizing that
Oh
why are
man,
we all
same.
angry and sad right now? And it's like, oh, because it got dark at 4:15. Like, we're all just going to be affected by that until probably until the actual solstice arrives in December. But I do feel like I should begin the show this week by correcting the record. Last week on the show, Tyler, you claimed that I was just sitting in Bermuda
He was in Bermuda this whole time. Sam's been in
this whole
Bermuda for
time
like
for
6
multiple
months.
weeks. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
you said that. You said me and my pretty mama are going to go to
Yeah.
Bermuda.
And I was like, is Brittany
yeah,
okay
that's
with that nickname? And you just brushed it off
Yeah. Well, it was
as
this
though
whole
her opinion
Kokomo
didn't
thing
matter.
they
And I was
got
like,
going
well,
on. They're going to Key Largo next year and
yeah.
Montego the year after that.
I actually do know somebody who's been to all of those spots except for Kokomo, which doesn't exist.
Kokomo
But
exists as a
anyway,
town in Indiana. Former big league pitcher Brandon Beachy was from there.
that is true, and I'm sure that's what they were alluding to in that song.
Yeah.
Totally. They were like, one day, this guy, we're the Beach Boys. His last name is Beachy. It's going to be perfect. Anyway.
That's a joke that can only happen on this show, and it did, and I'm so glad it did. But no, I was only in Bermuda for a few days, celebrating the wedding of good friends of mine, Aiden and Jordan, and then was traveling up the Pacific Coast. I mean, it was essentially like a trip through the California League and the Pacific Coast League and the Northwest League, going through town. Like I stayed in Everett, Washington for a bit, where family of my girlfriend Brittany lives around Everett. But we went through Oregon, we went through Northern California. It's just so many of those places that I've covered for years, and like now seeing them on signs of like, oh yeah, Modesto's that way. And I'm like, oh, well, they're called the Nuts for a reason. There's a great agricultural business that goes on in Modesto. Just using that knowledge, mostly in my own head, because I didn't want to annoy her on the drive more than I already did. But no, it was a great trip. It's good to be back with you guys, though, and resuming our regular program.
Well, that is true. We have an interview coming up this week that I'm very excited to get to. Unfortunately, I was not able to be part of it. I was really excited to talk with a couple of our old friends from summer 2025, but we're going to get to that coming up here in a little bit. But before we do, thanks for hanging out with us on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. You can, of course, as always, get in touch with us at podcast@milb.com. You can leave us a rating and a review and subscribe to the show wherever you find it. And let's dive into this week's episode of Ben's Biz Banter, presented by Circle K, the official convenience store of minor league baseball. It is Logovember, and we've had some rebrands, we've had some alternate identities. We've got one that we're going to talk about in the interview segment this week. We're going to start with I guess, an alt identity, a brand refresh, and then the resurrection of an old minor league baseball brand. But let's kick things off with the alt identity that was announced this week by the Louisville Bats, who have unveiled, I guess you could call this a tribute to Louisville's standard summer weather with a new identity called the Louisville Humidity. Ben, I've only been to Louisville, Kentucky once. It was in January. The humidity did not murder me, but I would imagine if I was there in July or August, it would have. Tell us about the Louisville humidity, the baseball side, not exactly the weather side.
Yeah, there's not too much to say about this overall concept, except that if you have been to Louisville during the summer, it probably got pretty hot. I remember one of the times I went there, it was one of those sweltering days where you could see the air. Felt like you could see the air in front of you. I would call the air miasmic, a miasma. I don't know, it's one of those like weird words like H.P. Lovecraft uses. Um, Miasmic air, just thick, oozing, dripping air. So it's hot in Louisville. The team decided to have some fun with it. It's not the heat, it's the humidity. So they're going to be the Louisville humidity. And I'm sure the internet's having fun making jokes on the logo because the logo, and I'm just saying what it is a sweating ball. It's a baseball dripping in sweat, holding a glove with a baseball in it. So this baseball plays baseball. Yeah. But this ball is just soaking in his own sweat. And it's interesting. I saw that they designed this in-house by a guy named Max Oxley, the Bats in-house graphic designer, and that rang a bell because when I visited Louisville in 2023, I want to say, when it was later in the season and it wasn't that hot, I did a story on Max. He is from a small town in England near like Nottingham, like Sherwood Forest, Robin Hood territory.
Nottingham Forest, yeah.
Yeah, and he went on a road trip with his family to the US and he fell in love with American culture in general and in particular baseball. He saw a Yankees game and was immediately hooked. And he eventually ended up, I wrote this story a few years ago, so I can't remember all the specifics, but he ended up trying to pursue a career in baseball and ending up at the Louisville Bats. So you have this guy from rural England, still a young guy in his 20s, getting exposed to baseball on a family vacation, and now he's the one designing Louisville humidity.
I can only imagine what the humidity does to a native Brit in the summer in Kentucky.
Yeah, he can't be happy there, old Max, but he made this choice. Max made this
No,
choice.
I'm sure he's 100% happy with the decision. I just imagine there are certain days where he's like, they didn't tell us this would happen in Nottingham.
Yeah, 100%. America, it'll get you every time. But we've got blue and white and orange color scheme. The jerseys are orange. So the last thing I want to point out about this Louisville humidity alternate identity is that there are built-in sweat stains on it. I mean, if you're playing in the humidity, you don't really need a built-in sweat stain because you're gonna sweat yourself, but the backs and pits have like darker coloration on the jersey itself.
So did they just
you've
use
got the sweat.
the 2024 Nike uniforms then? Sorry.
Got him.
I don't know if I did a little rim shot. I don't even know if that came through because one time I tried to do something else. I was clapping on this podcast for one of you two, and none of the audio came through of me clapping. Anyway, just imagine that I did the
We're imagining it now. Let's all take a few seconds and just
That's great. Everybody close
Take
your
in that
eyes.
mental picture.
Close your eyes. Think of
There we go.
me making a dumb joke and then doing it. Sorry, Ben, please continue.
Yeah, that's about it. I think, we got a lot to talk about. So we've acknowledged the Louisville humidity, playing 5 nights during the 2026 season, mostly in the height of the summer. First one's in June 13th. I'm sure those ones in July and August will be properly humid, really sticking to the theme. So not too many weather-related alternate identities really out there. I mean, you got the Tri-City Dust Devils, a primary identity. That's a weather phenomenon.
The Lake Elsinore Storm.
Lake Elsinore Storm, yeah. Omaha Storm Chasers. Obviously, in other sports, you've got Lightning.
Carolina Hurricanes, Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah. Trenton Thunder, now
Oklahoma City Thunder.
Oh, yeah, Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah.
But humidity, I think we're in uncharted territory.
Seattle Rain, even though it's spelled differently, but it's a pun. Anyway.
Yeah.
I do
add
like
this
it.
one to the long list of weather-related sports identities. Humidity.
I like it. It's good stuff. I like the identity. I do not like the actual humidity. In fact, the humidity makes me miserable. But
they're coming out bold stance.
I hate it. God, I hate it. And I'm just like such a wimp in it because I didn't grow up in humidity. So I'm like, I'm just the worst. Okay. That is an alt identity. we have, as noted, another alt identity conversation coming up in a little while. But I want to shift gears and shift down a level in the minor league baseball ranks and go to one of my old stomping grounds in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where the Altoona Curve have unveiled kind of a throwback way that an alternate identity has come along for them for 2026.
Yeah, well, not an alternate identity, just a promo,
Just a
just
promo.
a
Sorry.
just a theme night. But longtime listeners to this podcast would know that it's weird to call myself an old school guy because I still feel like I'm always on the pulse. But teams do not do promotions in reaction to current events nearly as often as they used to, and I miss those days of just some random, in this case, November day where you get a press release and you're like, here's something goofy. So I always want to shout out the teams that do it, and the Altoona Curve announcing in November, some 5 months in advance because there's not going to be baseball till April. But they announced that Wednesday, April 15th, will be In Penny We Trusted, Penny's Last Pitch. And that is, of course, a salute to the penny, which is no longer being produced. RIP the penny. So just a story in the national news story because we've all grown up with the penny, and I appreciate the Altoona Curve having a theme night saying, let's pay tribute to the penny. And so they have a 1 cent ticket package in the outfield bleachers, limit of 6 per fan. So don't just be like, oh yeah, I'm bringing 500 friends and we're going to pay $5, 6 per fan. But you can get, outfield bleachers, not the best seats, but whatever. You can get tickets for 6 cents to a minor league game. And the night will be filled with penny-inspired promotions, games, music, and more. The first 500 fans receive a commemorative final penny when they arrive at the game. And there will be concession offers and add-ons that recognize the 1 cent wonder. So just shout out to the Curve for staying on the pulse, doing something goofy. Always want to see more teams doing this just to liven things up throughout the off season and throughout the season itself. I promoted this on Twitter a little bit, and the Curve were like, hey, you should come out to the game. And I said, I'm going to wait till nickel night because that'll be a feast for the 5 senses.
Did you actually say that, or are you just testing that out?
Have you been
No,
in the
workshopping?
audience?
Check my records, twitter.com/BensBiz. I had it at the ready. You got to be prepared in my line of work.
The question that I have is if you get 6 tickets, so I assume they're still going to accept pennies. Pennies obviously are still legal tender. They're just going to be inundated. If you buy, 4 or 6 tickets, anything under 5, I guess, or 6 tickets. Like if you get 5 tickets, you can pay with a nickel. That's great. You get 6 tickets. Are they just they'll have so many pennies after this.
Well, I'm not sure if they're doing it at the box office. That's a good question. There's a ticketing link to the 1 cent deals. Whether it will still be at the box office, I imagine it would be because it's still salute to the penalty night. But yeah, just pay with a penny. Don't get a penny ticket and pay with $1. Come on. Where are you
Yeah.
going?
Can you break a
Nightmare.
5?
Yeah, exactly. Only in coins. I don't need any bills back. Just coins,
Yeah.
please. Yeah, that's some pretty good stuff. Well, let's stay in that league. The Richmond Flying Squirrels, it's a new chapter for them, headed into a new ballpark, and they have a new-ish look. They've got a refreshed identity. They haven't changed the principles of what makes them so successful, such a successful visual brand, but a refresh for 2026.
Yeah, they're moving in. We've talked about this multiple times here on this podcast, but of course, for those who might not recall, the Richmond Flying Squirrels, after playing their whole existence at the Diamond, going back to their inaugural season in 2009 after relocating from Norwich, they always played at the Diamond, and now there's a new ballpark essentially adjacent to the Diamond in what is now called the Diamond District. And it's called Carmax Park. And so the team, wanted to have a fresh look for what not a rebrand. And we talk about this every year. We're like, we need distinct terms for these different layers of because to me, a rebrand is when you change the name of the team too. Like it's a total rebrand.
Right.
And we call what the Flying Squirrels are doing a refresh because they're not really changing the primary logos and marks. They're just they're refreshing them. But then what's in the middle when you keep the team name but really completely overhaul the logo suite?
I think you just said it. Rehaul.
Rehaul, like so rebrand,
Revamp.
revamp. and a revamp is more than a refresh. This is a
Yeah.
refresh in Richmond.
Yeah.
So let's not get too into the weeds, but this is a refresh. So they're keeping the same color scheme, the same basic look. Brandios did these logos, back in 2009, and they're in charge of the new look. And so not a big change. If you can imagine the flying squirrels in your head and how they look like, it's still similar, but there's all sorts of small tweaks. Um, the primary logo now, the flying squirrel is it's front facing, and what do they call them? They have a name for this flying squirrel. I couldn't find it. But he looks like he's getting shot out of a cannon. The name is something along those lines, although a little bit better. So you got this flying squirrel in the primary logo, roundel, and also on the caps, just coming at you, flying straight ahead. Home white uniforms featuring a new squirrely script with flying squirrels across the front in white, red, and black. And a modernized, quote, flight font adorns the road gray uniforms of the Richmond over the chest in white lettering. So just some tweaks. Check it out on the Flying Squirrels website if you want to see the new look, some new hat designs, some new uniform designs, but still very much keeping with the Richmond Flying Squirrels aesthetic, and presumably love since 2009. That remains very much intact. But Sam, we were talking when this came out, and you said, maybe the Flying Squirrels should go bigger.
I mean, I don't want to force them to do anything. Like, I do think a refresh is a nice way of, or whatever we're calling this. This is a true refresh, I guess.
Yeah.
A refresh is a good way of celebrating a new ballpark. I do think they were in line for. I've always loved the Flying Squirrels name. It's something that's going to stick out no matter what. For something a little bit different than what they had, which, as you mentioned, now the squirrel is flying at you. It was flying away from you. It looked like it was it was an actionable move, but now it's actually kind of coming straight towards you, which makes it a little bit more menacing.
Yeah, the blast off pose. That's what
Blast
I'm
off
looking
pose. There
for.
we go. But no, I like it overall. And these jerseys, as you mentioned, you can find them at milb.com and Richmond's home site as well. They pop really well with this black and red color scheme. Like, I'm a little surprised they didn't like lean into the Giants in some way and like add a little bit more orange, but they are true to themselves, and this red, black, gray, white, all of it really pops really well on the jersey. So as much as I thought like, hey, maybe they were in line for something bigger and bolder, tweaks are fine too. You can still, if you have a fun name, especially like the Flying Squirrels, you don't need to go big or overly bold. Even this is something new. So I'll take it. Then speaking of something new that has actually still something old, the Lowell Spinners, who people might remember used to be a New York Penn League team, a Class A short season affiliate of the Boston Red Sox, are back in baseball, not in affiliated ball. They will be in college ball in the Futures League, but they are coming back next year. It's still the Lowell Spinners. It's still many of the same marks that people knew and loved. But what can you tell us about what is technically going to be new about these Lowell Spinners?
Yeah, Lowell Spinners are back, and it's the same look if you recall the Lowell Spinners. It's the same basic look that the Lowell Spinners used to have during their long run in the New York Penn League, which ended in 2020 with the restructure, with a season that was never played, and then the restructuring of minor league baseball. Lowell, they're called the Spinners because the history of textile mills in the area, spinning yarn. So they got the yarn in the primary logo. I always enjoyed visiting the Lowell Spinners going back to my early days in this career. They were always a team that drew well and that did fun, creative promotions. And so after minor league baseball, following the 2020 season, that of course wasn't actually a season, when minor league baseball was restructured and the Lowell Spinners were left on the outside looking in, there were a lot of rumors about Lowell over the next couple of years, and some of them I've forgotten. But like, what's going to happen there? Because it would seem like a really good market. I mean, Lowell, Massachusetts, it's not far from Boston, and they had been a Red Sox affiliate. I remember rumblings from years ago that maybe Salem, who of course recently rebranded as the Ridge Yaks, that they maybe would relocate to Lowell. Nothing came about with that. The ballpark itself was bought by UMass Lowell, and they started playing their collegiate games. The ballpark, which after many years I finally learned to pronounce correctly. Now I'm rusty on it again. It's French. Le Lac Shore.
I've never been able
Le
to
Lac.
say it.
But that ballpark is now owned by UMass Lowell, so the college was part of the effort in getting another team in there. to share the ballpark with their college team. And yeah, it's the Futures Collegiate Baseball League, which has a number of other New York Penn League alums in it as well, including the Vermont Lake Monsters and the what's the other one?
Norwich.
Yeah, Norwich Sea
Sea
Unicorns. Yeah, the Norwich's team rebranded to Sea Unicorns in advance of 2020. That season didn't happen, and then they were removed from affiliated ball. So their Sea Unicorns era ended up starting in conjunction with them joining the Futures Collegiate Baseball League, which Lowell Spinners are now a part of, coming in 2026. And honestly, compared to Class A short season ball, compared to good college summer collegiate ball, I don't think the average fan's going to notice much of a difference. There's not going to be the Red Sox affiliation that certainly could have been a draw for fans in Lowell. But I think the level of play and the ballpark experience, once they get up and running, will be, I think, fairly similar. And I think a lot of people in the Lowell area, I know a lot of people in Lowell are going to be happy to have those Spinners back. And I hope they do well in this new iteration.
All right, fellas. We had some other news from the a similar region, I guess, to who we were talking about earlier with Altoona, but Lake County, the Lake County Captains, next door in Ohio, have a very unique holiday themed promo going on, and one that, Ben, you said you haven't heard of a team doing before.
Yeah, I'm just always looking for what's new. Always been a big part of my job. And I should reach out to the team and see what the deal is here. But the Lake County Captains, and they're already saying it's almost sold out, so get in on this if you like what you're hearing right now. The Lake County Captains are, I believe, the first minor league baseball team to sell a team-specific advent calendar. And it only has 12. It's set up with like boxes stacked upon one another. And where I look at it as an advent calendar of like usually being for the entire month of December, this one is 12 distinct boxes all stacked upon one another. So I guess it's the 12 days of Christmas advent calendar. But it's stocked with collectibles, team history, surprises you can't get anywhere else. I'll have to reach out to the team to be like, hey, what is in this?
Spoil the surprise for
Yeah,
us.
yeah. So it looks like once they get it, yeah, I don't want to. But I found that intriguing, and I think like if you're a fan of a minor league team, that'd be a really cool thing to do uh, over the 12 days of Christmas, which I guess starts 12 days before Christmas. I mean, how do you
I've
measure?
never understood that.
Yeah, the
I feel
12th
like
day of, I mean, Christmas is one day.
think the 12 days of Christmas start on Christmas.
Starts on Christmas. Oh, I thought it
I don't
started
think it
leading
goes
up to
like
Christmas.
December 13th to the
Oh,
25th, but don't quote me on that. But
interesting.
the reason I think that, and I'm sure people are going to write in, and I'm going to be wrong about this. I'm going to hear about this later. But like the way I know that is the Empire State Building for the 12 days after Christmas is still Christmas colors
Yeah.
because they're celebrating the 12 days of Christmas.
Interesting.
Maybe I'm misremembering, and on December 27th, it's going to be like blue and yellow or something. But that's how I always think. Anyway,
Yeah,
open up
regardless.
whenever you want.
Yeah, regardless.
Yeah.
Make your own traditions.
You've got 12 boxes to open on the Lake County Captain's Advent calendar.
Can I throw in a suggestion
Yeah.
for what one of those things might be? A toilet ornament.
Ah,
It could be. They, of course, are home to Sam's referencing Roto Rooter Toilet Row at the Lake County Captain's home of Classic Park, Classic Auto Group Park, technically. Yeah, so a toilet ornament would be good. Maybe a some sort of miniature Moby Dick replica of their gigantic fish sandwich. Check out MILB Instagram for a video of my designated eater, Jay Canetti, trying to get through that. That dropped recently. And of course, on my newsletter, The Baseball Traveler, I have a recent write-up of the Lake County Captains, as well as Akron Rubber Ducks, and as well as Tri-City Dust Devils. It just keeps going. Here in Ben's Bizland, the baseball season never ends. But we're getting up to Christmas, and I would like to see more teams do advent calendars. Trying to think what I would want to see. It's a pretty small box. It looks smaller than a box that could. It looks like maybe, depending on the perspective of that picture, you could fit a baseball in it. That's about as big as you could possibly get. But, that's a pretty high ticket item in an advent calendar. I'm not saying there's baseballs.
They also say there's team history in there, which
Yeah.
makes me wonder like what could be historic that is in these smaller boxes? Is
Could
it
be.
like team dirt or something? Like that used to mean something to me as a collector.
Yeah, it could be a vial of dirt, hair of the bat dog.
And hair that, well,
Might just be a whole
that
bunch of
sounds
like
painful, but
old. They had a logo refresh. They could be old merch from the previous logo iteration for Lake County.
I'm sure it's got
We
to
got
be
to get rid
something
of
like
this.
that.
Yeah. Okay. So I've clicked on a link. We do the extra mile with our journalism here. So I've clicked on a link. Special ticket offers you can only unlock through this calendar. An
Ah,
unreleased 2025 top prospects card set available, and this is italicized, exclusively inside the advent calendar. And then limited edition captain's merch and surprise drops that fans will go crazy for. So if you're a fan of Lake County Captains in East Lake, Ohio, or thereabouts, and you're ready to go crazy, all right, that's enough of this. We're not getting paid for this app.
No, it's hard. But if anybody does buy it,
It's
please
60.
document it for us and send it in at podcast@milb.com or to any of our socials. I am very curious
Yeah,
as to what's in each of these boxes.
yeah. It could be yours for $59.90
I dig
or
it.
4 interest-free installments of $15 with Shop Pay. Learn more. You can click on the link.
Now you're just pushing product for a different city.
Make those people give us some cash money, some moolah. All right, fellas. Well, there is one other thing that feels very good to have the ability to unveil again, and that is that minor league baseball will return to the Field of Dreams in 2026. That was announced this week. Return to the Field of Dreams major league game. There's been a whole lot of work, development stuff going on at the Field of Dreams site, but that will return in 2026. One of the coolest things that baseball has done in recent years, the Field of Dreams game, and it's very cool that a couple of AAA teams this time will get to make that trip.
There for the last game,
Yeah,
which was a matchup between two Midwest League teams.
in 2022.
And is that how long ago it
I
was?
think it was 2022. Yeah.
Man,
Yeah, it was, which is wild to think about.
yeah, absolutely crazy. That was Quad Cities and Cedar Rapids, which are
Yeah.
two Iowa-based teams. Now there's only one playing in this game, but is the most obvious team to play in a minor league game at Field of Dreams in Dyersville, Iowa. It's the Iowa Cubs going up against the St. Paul Saints, St. Paul not being that far away either up there in Minnesota. So this game will be on August 11th, which is 2 days before the Twins and the Phillies are going to play. So you get if you're a Twins fan, go for the full experience, see the St. Paul Saints first, then go see their major league team 2 days later. But we were there, and that was one of the most fun things we've ever done. We drove from New York to Iowa, documenting our stops. Go look up that story. It was a lot of fun to write. Stories, there were multiple stories, I think, documenting that whole journey. But just to arrive when we did, and we got to play catch on the set field, but then also to see players hitting towards just miles and miles and miles of corn. There really is no spectacle like it. And to get to see that expanded to the minor, like tons of coverage is going to be around that major league game, but the fact that there's going to be a minor league game first, that's going to be your best opportunity to get really up close with these guys and with that atmosphere. And I hope people take advantage there on August 11th.
Yeah, but one of the reasons this game didn't happen the last couple of years is because it was greatly expanded, not the game itself, but
Yeah,
the baseball
right.
complex and facilities around the Field of Dreams. The game that we saw in 2022, and then there was also a major league component, of course. That ballpark, I believe, is no longer that specific ballpark. I believe they've. Am I correct in that?
I don't know about that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not positive if I know that I think the original plan was to take that part down and build something a little bit more long term, not necessarily permanent. But there's been so much, as you said, like additional fields going in. I know at one time there was talk about hotels
Oh
and
yeah, it
things
is the same ballpark. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got
things that would host tournaments and showcase events and all that. So it will be greatly reoriented if nothing else.
Yeah, but the whole point is just like even with the additions, it's still going to be acres and acres of corn that these guys are going to be aiming for, and we can talk more as that game gets closer of like what is it like to play in that environment? Is it a pitcher's park? Is it a hitter's park? It's going to be a warm August day. How does that affect things, et cetera, et cetera? But no, just for the pure spectacle, it's amazing what they pull off when they do this, and I'm so excited that it's back and that it has a minor league component.
Very cool stuff coming up in 2026. And we now will get to return to the scene of our 500th episode extravaganza. You guys got a chance to talk to two of our friends at the Somerset Patriots, who I have to apologize to that I was not able to be part of this interview. Hal Hansen and Dave Marek, two of my favorite guys in baseball. They rolled out the red carpet for us back in June for the show before the show night. But they've got a very cool alt identity that they actually sort of talked with us about a little bit back in June, but this is really fun and very cool stuff. Ben, give us the lowdown on the conversation ahead.
Yeah, don't have to do too much there, but yeah, we did get a hint of this to come when we were in Somerset back in June, and it really takes a lot of effort to put these things together, even if it's an alternate identity. But on four occasions in 2026, the Somerset Patriots, who are named the Patriots because of their proximity to Central Jersey's Revolutionary War history, they are celebrating America's 250th birthday by playing as the Semiquincentennials, a 19-letter team name. And we'll get into that with Dave Merrick and Hal Hansen from the Somerset Patriots. But before we do, spoiler alert, in the interview, I said 19 letters in one team name. Is that like the longest name in professional baseball history? Did you guys find anything that was longer? I couldn't come up with one. So just as you listen to this interview, you, the listener, try to think to yourself, are there team names really in any sport that have a name? And we're not talking the place name. We're talking just the actual name of the team. Semiquincentennials, 19 letters. Just think about that as you listen to this. And now let's learn all about Somerset Semiquincentennials. What has 7 syllables, 19 letters, and is now one of the latest alternate identities in minor league baseball? The answer, of course, is semiquincentennials. I think I'm getting that right. It's the word for 250th anniversary, and of course, in 2026, America is celebrating its semiquincentennial, and the Somerset Patriots are the team playing as the Semiquincentennials. So I've gotten to say it 3 times. I'm trying to get it out of my system, but we're going to talk a lot more about the Semiquincentennials with Dave Merrick, the Senior Vice President of Marketing for the Somerset Patriots, and Hal Hansen, the Senior Director of Sales and Marketing for the Patriots. Guys, thanks for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now, I know this was something in the works for quite a long time, the semi-quincentennial alternate identity. Obviously, there's a lot of American history right there in Central Jersey, right near where your ballpark. So take us through, just to start, the evolution of this idea, realizing that this anniversary was coming up, hitting on the name, incorporating the history. There's a lot to get into, but where did it all start with?
Yeah, I would say I remember hearing the word as part of a like a morning broadcast on TV for the first time. It was like the Today Show or Good Morning America or one of those things, and I was casually watching, and I heard them say semi-quincentennial, and it's like, God, that's a strange word. I've never heard that word before, and did a little research and figured out it's the for 250th anniversary, that is the word for it. And I got thinking that that word is going to be written and said a lot between 2025 and into 2026. And how funny would it be to actually name our team the Semiquincentennials, a absurdly long name that has meaning, and we could have some fun with it. So we kind of kicked the idea around. We had some other thoughts on where it could go with potentially different names, but in the end, semi-quincentennial is just kind of a ridiculous word that we're really only going to use one time in our country's history, and it's next year, and then that word is essentially going to vanish. So let's capitalize on it and do something fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, all of America will be celebrating this anniversary, but Somerset Patriots in Central Jersey, you guys in your proverbial backyards have a lot of history related to the founding of America in 1776. So if you could
Talk a little bit about that and what is really unique to your area in terms of the foundation of America.
Yeah, when Hal brought up this idea, it really makes a lot of sense for the Somerset Patriots to pick up this mantle here, because our name is really derived from the Revolutionary War, and the position that we are, our ballpark in Central Jersey, is literally the crossroads of the American Revolution. We have there's multiple historical houses all throughout New Jersey. And there's one specifically right across the street from the ballpark named the Van Horn House, which was instrumental in the Battle of Bound Brook back in 1777. So there is real life history all around us, and our original founder, Steve Califer, is big into American values and history, and so we're bringing that to light each and every year, but especially much bigger focus on it in 2026.
Yeah, Dave, and you touched on something there, and how maybe you can answer this as well, just in terms of what to choose for the look of an anniversary, right? Like there's so many different ways you could go with that. You go with a calendar. You guys could even stick with just your Patriots logos. I mean, they, like you said, they are quite literally patriotic, but also something that signifies and comes from what happened 249 years ago now, 250 years ago next year. So take us through just how you guys decided what the branding would be, and you guys ended up going with a bald eagle, which obviously makes all the sense in the world. But how did you land on that, and how many different permutations were there before you landed on the bald eagle?
Yeah, we worked with Fooster Sports, Ryan Foos, and we looked at a bunch of different things. We were thinking everything, you know, anything we could think of from revolutionary times, colonial times. There was a thought to kind of modify our look a little bit and just go with a slightly different version. But then, if we're going to go all in on an alternate identity, we wanted to, we figured it made more sense to go completely different. And we just kept coming back to, the bald eagle. And I know that there's other versions of it out there in different collegiate teams, but it was the bald eagle, and then we got the idea to have the Yankees top hat on it, and sort of bring our parent club into the concept. The bald eagle representing America. We had a whole different a variety of versions of the eagle. Some of them holding a hot dog and other fun stuff, but we ultimately decided let's stick with very simple. There's the one version of the logo where he's holding the bat and a baseball. The cap logo is pretty straightforward. The eagle and the top hat, we just kept coming back to that. Those are the two things that best represent what we're looking to do and would resonate with the most amount of people. We didn't want to get too specific to our area and hone in on maybe a central figure to that, the revolutionary times that was from New Jersey. We wanted to make this as broadly appealing as possible. And the quill was part of the equation, and that became one of our secondary logos. And but it was the bald eagle. I mean, that's kind of the symbol of America. Throw a top hat on him, and there you go.
Sometimes it really just needs to be that simple.
Yeah.
Especially when the name is doing all the work. In this case, with, like Ben said, the amount of syllables and letters and all that.
Correct.
That's going to grab plenty of attention. When you guys were looking at what days to use this, I mean, the 4th of July is the obvious one. It's a big day on the calendar for any minor league team. It's the almost guarantee sellout, right? Is as close as you can get to 4th of July and the fireworks. But as you guys were doing research, was there anything in New Jersey history when you thought like, hey, this is the day of something big in the Revolutionary War or in 1776 in particular that you thought, hey, let's honor that by becoming this team name on that day?
There wasn't really anything more in depth other than the fact that we definitely wanted to rotate around the July 4th weekend, and we're fortunately have games that July 3rd, 4th, and 5th. But we also annually do a night called the Revolutionary Revelry Night, and that's where we have a bunch of different reenactors coming out here. I have a cannon that comes out on the field and shoots a big cannon shot. there's an encampment out in front of the ballpark and stuff on the concourse. And we, it's hard to get them out for that weekend because next year it's going to be just a jam-packed weekend for all of them. So we wanted them to have their own special date. So we're doing that on August 15th. So that's giving us our 4 dates that we're going to do next year. The July 4th weekend, that's going to be huge next year in America, as well as the August 15th date.
Yeah, and you talked about the bald eagle a bit, but there's a lot of little somewhat hidden meanings within this logo set. Some symbolism, 19 stars in one logo to commemorate the number of letters in the word semiquincentennial. If you could take us through some of those elements of the identity that people might miss or they might not know much about upon initially looking at it.
Sure. So the cap logo is just the eagle head with the top hat on it, and there's 3 stars on the top hat in honor of New Jersey being the third state. So that's why that's there. We have the quill signers. That's an alternate logo, and we have there are 5 gentlemen from New Jersey who signed the Declaration of Independence. So we have a secondary logo with a quill that lists their 5 names on it, and that's honoring those guys. The jersey is really cool. The jersey has a couple different aspects to it that we've never tried before. First of all, it's the jersey still has the pinstripes, but the pinstripes are alternating red and blue, which it looks really, really cool in person. Something I've never seen before. And I don't think any of us had ever seen before. And the red and the blue are specifically the exact red and blue that are used in the American flag. So we kept those colors consistent throughout all of the logos, whether it's on the colors of the cap or the uniform. The other aspect of the jersey that's really neat is the sleeves have imprinted on both sleeves the actual signatures of the Declaration of Independence baked into the sleeve, and in person it looks really cool. You can make out the 5 guys from New Jersey on one sleeve right in the front. You see John Hancock and a bunch of other ones. It's a really nice touch that Ryan Fusser had suggested while we were in the creative process. So those are the main aspects of it. I think, Dave, am I leaving anything out?
No, I just the one last thing. Of course, we talk about the eagle. The eagle was in 1782 was the original seal of the United States. So that's why the eagle is such a prominent feature in a lot of American culture. So that's again going back to why we focused on the eagle as being on the original seal of the United States.
And the last thing I want to touch on about this, guys, is just the timing of the announcement. I mean, we're still early in the off season. We're still kind of early in the alternate identity reveal calendar. Is this you guys putting your stamp on the 250th anniversary and being like, we were the first team to come out with this? Anybody else who comes after us is a copycat? And also, how much do you feel you've thrown down the gauntlet for 19-letter team names and trying to get other teams to maybe, I don't know if they'll be able to beat you this offseason, but maybe 2027, we'll see a 20-team name, like throwing down the gauntlet in that aspect?
I would say, I mean, we definitely wanted to get it out there because once the calendar passes over to 2026, this America 250 stuff is going to be everywhere, and we wanted to get it out now to kind of get ahead of everything and get this get people ready for it. I don't know that we're necessarily looking to claim or stake a claim to this concept ahead of everybody else, but we wanted to make sure we got the branding out there before all the other whatever else is going on throughout the country. Get this out there now.
And we're looking to build partnerships with local historic groups and things like that to build on these nights. So it's not just playing in a uniform. There's going to be some meaning behind the games that people will be able to get to learn and research a lot of the different historical areas in our area that help shape the revolution.
Well, just regarding one of those more niche, nerdy minor league baseball thoughts we all have, or at least, people who listen to this podcast have, 19 letters. I couldn't come up with a team name in professional baseball history longer than 19 letters. I mean, if you add the team's place name, then you got Scranton Wilkes-Barre always making it interesting with the number they have overall. But just a team name, one word, 19 letters. Did you come up with, in your research, any longer team name anywhere?
No, we that was one thing that we were kind of excited about, is that we couldn't find anything, and we thought it was kind of cool that we could claim to be the longest team name in potentially sports history. I don't know if there's any others that are in any sport that are that long. So it's kind of fun to if that is indeed true, to say that we are officially the longest team name in sports history.
And
Yeah.
it's funny to see, that, to try to, that was also one of the big challenges in the build out for this is how do you fit a 19 letter team name across the uniform? So, I think Ryan laid it out perfectly, and I think it's a great look. And plus, it's fun in minor league baseball when you have a word like that, and Ben, you were even kind of slightly playing with the sound of the word. Semiquincentennial is like a word that you actually do have to practice to be able to say properly. So if anybody out there wants to get a firm understanding of how to say it properly, you got to hit the Q, semi-Q. If you hit the semi-Q, semiquincentennial, you're set. But it took us a little bit of time to actually kind of, get it right and make sure we're saying it right. So
Yeah, well, you know how it works in minor league baseball. Just say this is the longest team name ever, and
yeah.
maybe someone corrects you. If not, that means it's true.
Right.
I guess to wrap things up, I mean, one is this new Ken Burns Revolutionary War documentary now required viewing within the Patriots front office?
For me, it is, and Dave as well. I've watched the first episode. I have not watched 2 or 3 yet, but I will get to it. The first episode was fascinating. Just it was things I learned in elementary school flowing back into my head, and names and places, and it was fascinating, and it got me all the more excited to watch that, having just launched this and having been working on this for over a year now.
And I echo what Hal's saying. I'm watching it as well, and I'm even in addition, I'm reading Ron Chernow's book Washington, which is over 1,000 pages long. It's the biggest book I think I've ever read. But it really is. As I'm watching this and I'm reading this book, it really is remarkable to understand what our forefathers went through to build this country, and all the things that they had to do. And you think of our modern day conveniences that we're dealing with today. It's like they had to think of having none of that and just to get stuff from England to furnish your house, or to get ice from somewhere, or just simple things like that. It's really remarkable what was done to build this country. It's remarkable.
Finally, last thing, it's a long way off, but you always have to plan ahead. 2051, America turns 275. Are the Somerset Patriots going to be the bicentennials?
Yeah, Ben, I think I responded to your.
You did.
Your,
I got that from you, Hal, on Twitter.
And I'm not even going to attempt to say it. I need a lot more practice on that one.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to semi-quincentennials first, and then we'll get into other anniversaries down the line. But Dave and Hal, thanks so much for joining us on the Show Before the Show podcast, and looking forward to seeing the semi-quincentennials on the field in 2026.
Thank you, guys. Y'all do a great job.
Thank you very much.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Well, big thanks to Hal Hansen and Dave Marek, 2 of the real good guys in all of minor league baseball, for stopping by this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. So bummed that I didn't get to be part of that conversation, but the Somerset Semiquincentennials coming your way in 2026. And with that, we're going to pivot to some on-field news. 40-man roster protection day has come and gone. And what that means, for those of you unfamiliar, is for top prospects for players in major league organizations, you had to be added to the 40-man roster as of 2 days ago. We're recording this on Thursday the 20th, so Tuesday the 18th, in order to be protected ahead of the Rule 5 draft, which will be coming up in early December. There were some top 100s on this list. Sam, what are some of the most interesting names who were protected this week?
I mean, normally when a top 100 prospect becomes Rule 5 eligible, they're a guarantee to be protected. And when I say normally, I mean literally every time that there has been somebody who has been a top 100 prospect who is Rule 5 eligible, they've been added to the 40-man roster. Let's just walk through exactly what that means real quick. And I think most people who are listening to this on-field section generally understand how the Rule 5 draft works. But for those who may not, if you signed when you were 18 or younger, so typically we think of this as high school draft picks or international players who sign when they're 16, 17, and you've been in pro ball for 5 seasons or more, you are eligible for the Rule 5 draft. If you sign when you were 19 or older, so generally JUCO picks, college picks, and you've been in pro ball for 4 seasons, you are Rule 5 eligible. Teams can pick Rule 5 eligible players who are not protected on the 40-man roster by Tuesday's deadline at the winter meetings here coming up in December. And if you are a Rule 5 major league pick, you have to stick on the major league roster for all of the remaining, or all of the following season, I should say. So for 2026, you have to be on the roster all year to stick in the organization, or else you are offered back. Sometimes injured players get taken. They can be stashed on the IL, but then you have to be active for 90 days the following season after that in order to stick. So you can't just take somebody who just had Tommy John, stick them on the 60-day IL for the entire year and be like, oh, you're ours now. There still are some roster stipulations for that. So basically, the whole Rule 5 process is done in order to get blocked prospects a real opportunity in the major leagues. Sometimes that works out pretty well. We've seen some ones in recent memory. Shane Smith, for example, with the Chicago White Sox, somebody who was a success at the Rule 5 level, or as a Rule 5 pick in 2025. Normally, they don't stick. It's extremely difficult if you've only played, say, AA ball to jump and remain on a major league roster. But as you said, Tyler, Tuesday was the 40-man roster deadline day. We had 6 top 100 prospects eligible this year. All were protected. Andrew Painter, Angel Janau, Joe Mack, catcher with the Miami Marlins, Leonardo Bernal, catcher with the Cardinals, Elmer Rodriguez, right-handed pitcher with the Yankees, and Spencer Jones, an outfielder for the Yankees. I wouldn't say there were any huge shocks this year in terms of like, oh man, this guy went unprotected. There are some interesting ones, like the Atlanta Braves didn't protect anybody at all. They didn't add anybody to their 40-man roster. So number 11, Blake Burkhalter, is eligible. There are some famous names here for sure. A lot of first-round picks. You look at the Kansas City Royals, Frank Mazzucato and Gavin Cross, 2 of their first-round picks in recent years. Neither was protected this year, nor did they really earn that opportunity. They are not top 20 prospects in that system now, but it's just interesting that Kansas City invested so much into those 2 players, and now they could be taken by any other team and potentially stick in the major leagues next year. So I don't want to say it was a mundane Rule 5 draft. It just wasn't overly shocking, but it was still very busy. You'll see a lot of players get moved on that day as teams are trying to shuffle around their 40-man roster, either to make room for prospects they want to protect or go out and get prospects who they would like to protect for their own. Like, hey, we want this guy on our 40-man. Now's the day to make that happen. So there was a lot of that shuffling going along, a lot of really minor moves outside of, the Grayson Rodriguez, Taylor Ward deal, which wasn't prospect focused. And we don't have to get too much into that, but that was late in the day, Tuesday. But yeah, it's always a busy day on the calendar. That's for sure. With just so many transactions coming in just before that 6 p.m. Eastern time deadline.
You've got a really cool story up on the site about some of the under the radar names who were protected for the Rule 5 draft. And there are some really interesting potential future big league, regulars, maybe big league standouts who are among this list. But they might not be familiar names to fans, even in their own organizations. They've flown under the radar a little bit. Give us a look at some of those.
Yeah. So the point of this was that when we do our top 30 rankings, we're looking at long-term value, right? But teams still protect guys who are not necessarily top 30 prospects, and they might be by the time we next do our update, but because they are worried about losing them in the short term, right? Like you add them to the 40 man now, maybe they get DFA'd in a few months if it doesn't work out, but at least you are protecting them, keeping them in the organization right now, even if you think there are 30 other talents who are more valuable for them over 5-10 years, whatever. But these guys, I think are some fascinating stories. It's a story up right now on MLB Pipeline. I'll highlight a couple of them real quick. Tyler Uberstein, a right-handed pitcher for the Boston Red Sox. He was protected. He's not top 30 prospect right now. I think he could be. Jim Callis does our list for that. We'll see how Jim decides if he's worthy of being added. But 19th round pick in 2021, he was cut twice from his high school team. He went to USC just thinking like, this is just a school I'm going to go to. I think he tried out a few times at USC, was on the club team, ended up going to Northwestern and also participating in the MLB Draft League. That put him onto draft radars in 2021. He's 26-year-old, had a 3.58 ERA with 137 strikeouts and 120 2/3 innings between AA and AAA this year. It's not a huge fastball. It only averaged 93.2 at AAA, but he throws it with this like low 3/4 delivery. And he's also got a really interesting slider off of that really spins well out of that low release angle as well. The fastball, the four-seamer, gets a lot of swing and miss, 37.6% at AAA. We'll see how things work out for the Red Sox. Is he just going to be rotation depth? Is he somebody you move to the bullpen long term? But he's just a fascinating one. The fact that he was cut twice from his high school team and is now legitimately on a 40-man roster. That's an incredible climb for Tyler Uberstein. Another one I'll throw out there, Brandon Valenzuela with the Toronto Blue Jays. He was protected a few weeks ago because he was actually eligible to become a minor league free agent this year. He had been blocked at AA in the Padres system for a long time. And then he returned to AA San Antonio this year, was basically the backup catcher to Ethan Salas at the beginning of the year. And then Ethan Salas missed much of the summer with back issues. So Valenzuela took his opportunity to become a AA starting catcher again and ran with it. Ended up being traded to the Blue Jays at the deadline for Will Wagner in a straight up 1-for-1 deal. Moved up to AAA Buffalo after that. It wasn't his first time at AAA, but got an extended look there. Actually caught Trey Savage. I talked to Valenzuela about his experience catching Savage in a story about Savage's rise. So there's a link to that in that story as well. He's always been seen as an exceptionally good defensive catcher. He doesn't need to be a starter with Alejandro Kirk in that system, but obviously Toronto values him for his work behind the plate. He gets a 40-man spot here. It's well earned for that defensive prowess back there. Ryan Ward gets protected by the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's somebody who led the minors with 36 homers last year at 73 extra base hits, 315 total bases. Those numbers also led the minor leagues for AAA Oklahoma City. Outfielder / first baseman. It's going to be a lot to ask for him to, I think, be a huge power player for the Dodgers, but this is, again, the defending two-time World Series champions who don't have a ton of 40-man space. So clearly they think, listen, the guy hits the ball hard. He hits it in the air. That's how he's going to produce these home runs. Maybe he ends up being an option for them next year, either in a corner outfield spot, back up to Freddie Freeman at first base. Freddie Freeman gets hurt. You turn to Ryan Ward. You have somebody with power. You can plug and play there. He's another interesting one to throw out. So those are just 3 names, but I wrote up 10 of them total. So you can read more about them on MLB Pipeline.
All right, Sam. Well, it isn't, of course, just the Rule 5 draft coming up. There is a ton at hand after the Thanksgiving holiday at the MLB winter meetings and throughout the rest of the offseason. You've also got a story up at MLB Pipeline about top 100 prospects who could very much be impacted by movement from their teams over this offseason. And 5 guys who you highlighted there. This is kind of an anxious time of the year, I would imagine, for some, minor leaguers, prospects who know I could very well be headed to a different spring training place than the organization where I finished this season. But give us some of the insight into who might be on the move over the offseason.
Yeah, this one is interesting because there's multiple ways of looking at like how prospects are impacted by the offseason, right? There's what you mentioned there, Tyler, in terms of prospects who could be traded away. And you kind of had that understanding. I don't think there's a more nervous place in baseball than the AA clubhouse around July 31st, right? Like if you are in a contending club, I've talked to plenty of players about this. It's always like, we could be moved. Like any call we get right now could be, hey, you're going over to X team. That kind of carries on into the offseason. It's not quite as nervous because there's not a hard deadline when players have to be moved. But I'll highlight in that kind of category, Harry Ford with the Seattle Mariners. Harry Ford is a catcher. He's somebody who got called up at the end of the year for the Seattle Mariners. He also happens to be a catcher in an organization with the best catcher on the planet in Cal Raleigh, who just finished as the runner-up in the AL MVP vote. I'm not going to rehash like should he have won it, but somebody who's coming off a 60-homer season behind the plate, as many homers as ever been hit by a catcher in Major League history. Harry Ford is ready for a Major League opportunity right now. He's athletic enough. He's got enough power. He performed well enough at AAA. Do the Mariners, who are clearly trying to get over the hump, use Harry Ford as a trade chip to go out and get somebody who can help them in another area, right? Like they brought in Josh Naylor, clearly indicating, hey, we're going for it. You know, we realized that first base is going to be an opportunity that we need, or a hole that we needed filled. They brought back Josh Naylor, who brought great vibes, great production, somehow great speed, or great stolen base aptitude to that team late in the year. Do they look at some of their other spots and be like, hey, we have a really good prospect here who could bring us back something? Do they use Harry Ford and get him out of Cal Raleigh's shadow? We'll see how that goes. But he's somebody I'm definitely going to be watching. And then there are others who are like, teams are going to add players or trade major leaguers away and either block certain players or create lanes for them. We already saw that in a way in terms of one player kind of getting blocked, and Kevin McGonigal, because Gleyber Torres accepted the qualifying offer also before a Tuesday deadline. So we can just pencil him in right now, probably pen him in, depending on injury, as the Tigers' opening day second baseman. I think Kevin McGonigal fits best at second base defensively. But with Torres back for another year, and with all this talk, McGonigal, now the AFL MVP, ending the year strong, he had a lot of his focus in the fall league at shortstop and third base, maybe in anticipation of Torres accepting the QO. But that's going to have to continue now. If he's going to make the Tigers, never mind opening day, but like early in 2026, it's going to have to be on the left side of the infield. So now that shifts our thinking on McGonigal. Is he a good enough defensive shortstop? I think he can kind of handle it there. He's even spoken about it. The defense needs to improve at that spot. Would he be okay at third base? I think so. The arm's going to be a little bit of a stretch there, but he can make it work as well. The bat's going to be what pushes him regardless. But now, instead of thinking like, oh, the best spot for Kevin McGonigal is at second base, in 2026, that's not going to be the case. It's going to have to be at shortstop or third. JJ Weatherholt in the St. Louis Cardinals organization. Do the Cardinals trade away? We've heard his name come up a few times. Brendan Donovan in trades, because Weatherholt, kind of same situation. I think he's probably a better fit at second base. Brendan Donovan, that would be an easy swap, but also Nolan Arenado kind of seemed like he was saying goodbye to St. Louis. And even Chaim Bloom has been pretty forthright about like, we're trying to find a trade for Nolan Arenado. JJ Weatherholt has experience at third base. He has experience at short. He has experience at second. Given the prospect promotion incentive, the Cardinals should be trying to get him on their opening day roster. Like, he is going to be a favorite to win NL Rookie of the Year. And you want that were to happen. So they need to maybe create some space for JJ Weatherholt, and trading one of those guys away would certainly clear a lane for him. But it hasn't happened yet. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. So those are three names. I wrote two others in that piece, Owen Casey and also Spencer Jones, who I mentioned earlier, just got a 40-man spot. There are going to be a lot of prospects who are affected by moves. It's not just, hey, here's a major league spot. Okay, great. That's all we have to think about it through is the major league microscope. No, there's going to be minor league ripple effects for all of these moves coming up.
You're back on the case, McGonigal. I'm stealing the Jay on rate thing with Sergei Bobrovsky for Kevin McGonigal. All right, Sam. The offseason calendar continuing to turn, but we've got some news that pertains to in-season. Major League Baseball this week announcing new broadcast rights agreements with a couple of new stakeholders. NBC Sports is back in the baseball game. NBC, of course, will be home to Sunday Night Baseball starting this season, and Netflix, which will take on opening night and the Home Run Derby, among other things. But as it pertains to us, coming up in July, of course, the 2026 MLB All-Star Game, which will be held in Philadelphia, will have some changes to minor league connected events. Specifically, the MLB first year player draft will be moved from Sunday to Saturday, and the futures game will go into the spotlight on Sunday. I really like this, especially for the way that you can put the futures game on a bigger stage as effectively your Sunday night baseball arrangement for that week. I really like this a lot. It sometimes has felt weird to have the futures game going on Saturday afternoon when there's a full slate of major league games. But give us your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be different for me for sure, because I just got so used to futures game on Saturday, first day of the MLB draft on Sunday, and then the rest of the draft flowing from there. In this early announcement, we haven't quite heard about like how the draft rhythm is going to go. Is day 2 of the draft still on Sunday, and is that going to butt up against the futures game? I hope not. At least in terms of like, are they going to be happening at the same time? I like your idea, Tyler, in terms of the futures game becoming the Sunday night game and getting the draft on during the day. We'll see how things go on that. But the fact that NBC folding itself back into baseball coverage wants to be part of the draft, wants to be part of the futures game, I think is exciting as a new MLB media rights partner. How are they going to put the spotlight on all these things on the next generation of baseball? I think that's going to be welcome. And it's just mostly right now, it's just updating your calendars. You know, if you're somebody like us who follows the draft every year, follows the futures game, and you too got used to futures game on Saturday, draft on Sunday, swap that right now in your brain. Just get used to what that's going to feel like come July. And, you know, hopefully, like we do every year, we're going to be talking about the future of the game all weekend and into the beginning of the week and All-Star week. But yeah, I can't wait for that. And the fact that it's going to be in Philadelphia next year, obviously, you know, we just talked about a semi-quincentennial, right? Like that's going to be something we're talking about all year. Putting it in Philly makes all the sense in the world. It's going to be such a fun weekend there, starting with the draft itself on Saturday and flowing right into the futures game on Sunday.
Some really cool stuff coming up in 2026. And with that, we will step aside, bring it on back. Benjamin Hill will rejoin us. We'll play Name That Dude and say goodbye on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show next.
When you want your spring break to feel like... and your kids' pool day to feel like... and your hotel bed to feel like... ooh, and room service to feel like... because at Hilton, hospitality feels like...
Your cabana's ready. Would you like fresh towels?
it matters where you stay. Book now at Hilton.com. Hilton, for the stay.
Final segment of this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. Before we get out of here, I wanted to wait until we were all three together to address this issue. We received an email, podcast@milb.com, from one Gregory Koch, Koch, and Gregory posed this query to us, and I felt the need to address it. He says, quote, "Why has Tyler never come to the defense of Colorado and their numerous state-shaped scoreboards when the topic has come up on the podcast about the ones in Sugar Land and Nashville?" And you know what? He's got me. We've talked about Sugar Land and its Texas-shaped scoreboard, Nashville and its guitar-shaped scoreboard. We have never addressed the elephant in the scoreboard room, which is a lot of scoreboards shaped like my state. Now, you may say, yeah, your state's a square. I think the ultimate reason is, are these Colorado-shaped scoreboards or are these Wyoming-shaped scoreboards? And since I am not able to determine definitively either, I hadn't gotten a chance to fully address it yet. But Gregory, amazing insight and question, and I feel good to have gotten a chance to air that out.
Yeah, I think, the scoreboard was invented, I'm pretty sure, in Colorado Springs. So every scoreboard since has just been trying
It's
to
just a
honor.
tribute.
Yeah,
That's what it
that's what
is.
they're going for there,
That's
clearly.
all it is.
The good people of Wyoming came in second place. So there be some out there that are
Yeah.
trying to honor second place.
Yeah.
Don't you
Okay, before we
I don't
get
think
out
they
of
even
here.
got it.
forget?
I saw that email, but I was like, oh, yeah, why doesn't Tyler talk about these? I didn't get it. Yeah, it's Knoxville in their new ballpark, the Smokies that have the Tennessee State shape, and yes, Sugarland, Texas. Those are the only two I can think of off the top of my head in minor league baseball. But yeah, there's Colorado all over the place now that I think
Yeah.
about it.
I
Maybe
know.
in December we'll rank all the states by which have the best shape for a scoreboard.
Hawaii.
That actually is a great idea. Just go, how Defector does like underexplained lists where they'll just like rank things and not really tell you a reason why they have a definitive determination for either. Trying to think of what would be the only like bad shaped state. Vertical shaped Florida, not a good, that wouldn't be a good scoreboard.
New Hampshire,
Delaware,
pretty tough.
New Hampshire, Vermont, vertically shaped states, kind of Idaho could be tough.
That's why I said
California,
Hawaii. I mean,
very
you've got
tough.
islands.
Yeah, Hawaii. Hawaii could
Every
be cool.
inning is an island.
Yeah, either
I
the
think Hawaii
innings or
would be
like
cool because you could have all these auxiliary scoreboards.
yeah,
Like
you
a
could have like
main one,
balls,
the Big Island, and then
ball strikes outs. Then the Big Island is the video board. That'd be kind of cool. I know there are a lot more
or
islands than
Alaska
just
with
ball
that kind of
strikes
long
out.
tail at the end could be like
Yeah,
a
the
ribbon board
illusions.
coming up.
Yeah, you can make a lot of stuff out of the illusions.
Let's save it for the podcast.
Okay,
fellas.
all
We're
right,
coming
deal.
up with ideas now
All
that
right,
we're
deal.
just giving
I like it.
away.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. Well, before we get out of here, it's time for the latest and greatest edition of Name That Dude, the game show craze that has swept I don't even want to say the nation anymore. How about the globe? Sam Dykstra is the dude knower upon his return to the Show Before the Show podcast this week, which makes Benjamin Hill and me the dude guessers. And Sam, please, the floor is yours.
All right. So the dude this week, we will start with his draft status. He was the 38th overall pick of the 2004 June amateur draft. He was taken out of a high school in Miami Gardens, Florida. So drafted straight out of high school, signed, did not go to college, in 2000. In 2000,
Wait, in 2000 or 2004?
2004. Excuse me,
2004,
2004. So in 2004, he began his career first in the rookie Appalachian League. He was drafted by the Chicago White Sox, I should say. So he was with Bristol that season. Also moved up to Kannapolis, which this is fascinating to me, and maybe I should have dug a little bit more into this. Drafted in 2004, this guy played 15 games. I'm going to give it away. He was a starting pitcher. He made 14 starts after being drafted. So he threw 64 and 2/3 innings in his draft year in 2004. My, how the times have changed.
Yeah.
That was his age 18 season. 2005, he split the year again between Kannapolis and Winston-Salem. So pretty typical here. Then he was traded to the Phillies for a bit there, was with Double-A Reading in 2006, then went back to the Chicago White Sox for 2007, where he was with Birmingham. 2008 was with Triple-A Sacramento, and then he debuted for, at the time, the Oakland Athletics in 2008. 2009, spent some time back with Sacramento, also with Oakland. He's with the Oakland A's in 2009, 2010, 2011. In 2012, he went to the Washington Nationals. He's with the Nats for 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, and part of 2018. Traded to the Brewers that season. And then 2019 with the Brewers, also appeared in the Yankee system for a hot second there, made 3 starts with AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre. And then 2020, 12 appearances, 4 starts with the Chicago White Sox, and his last appearance was in 2020. Ben claims to have the answer already.
Yeah.
I think I've got it
Tyler,
too.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think
it's
I've got it.
time because we're talking about Gio Gonzalez.
Yes,
Gio Gonzalez
we are. Gio Gonzalez
is correct. Gio Gonzalez, a multi-time top 100 prospect, was on Baseball America's list in 2006, 2007, 2008, and 2009. He topped out at number 26 pre-2008, but was generally in that 70 to 100 range there. He was also on Baseball Prospectus's list before 2008 at number 56. He was a Futures Game participant in 2006. The reason I bring him up, do you guys know why I bring up Gio Gonzalez?
Says he's Hall of
Yes.
Fame. That's why I got it so quickly, because I read an article about it was Tyler Kepner in The Athletic, and I read his article about every new Hall of Fame eligible player on the ballot, and so that White Sox Phillies back to the White Sox thing, I kind of had it from there. He was traded for Jim Thome when he went from the Phillies to the back to the White Sox.
Gio Gonzalez kind of, it feels like obviously he's not that old. He pitched in the pandemic year of 2020, but he exceeded 200 innings 3 different times, which is just not something that really happens anymore.
Yeah.
He ended his career with 1,860 strikeouts in 1,933 innings, a career ERA of 3.70. He finished third in the Cy Young voting. In 2012 with the Nationals, he went 21-8 that year with a 2.89 ERA over 199 and a third frame, struck out 207 batters, led all of baseball in FIP with 2.82 and home runs per 9 at 0.4, led the National League in strikeouts per 9 at 9.3. Do any of us think Gio Gonzalez is going to get into the Hall of Fame? I'll speak for you guys. No, probably not. But, very solid career.
He is very much a Hall of Very Good.
Yeah, I was going to say that's like a different discussion that happens on the internet now, but he would at least be into that status. Always somebody who was, like I said, a workhorse in rotations, could get strikeouts, always effective, and the fact that he was left-handed, valuable in that way as well. So, Gio Gonzalez, we'll see if he gets any votes. I mean, that's one of my other favorite things to do is obviously you want to see who gets in, but like who's going to get that stray 1 or 2 votes? I don't think he's necessarily going to get the 5% to stick and be voted on in 2026/27. But he may get a few stray votes, and he certainly earned them with a very solid career across 4 different major league teams, 13 years in the bigs for Gio Gonzalez.
Yeah, and the fact, and this is the point that Tyler Kepner made in the article I read, that he was drafted by the White Sox, came up through their system, traded away, traded back, but he didn't actually appear for the White Sox in the major leagues until the very end of his career. It was sort of like destiny after all his time at the White Sox that he finally got the pitch for the White Sox before calling it a day.
That's pretty cool stuff. So Gio Gonzalez, welcome to Name That Dude. And that's going to do it for us on this week's episode of the show before the show. Next week, obviously, holiday week, we might be able to get something to you early in the week, but if things go by and the holiday of consuming turkey and giving thanks of Thanksgiving. How do you guys say, do we do this every year? How do you guys say the holiday next Thursday? How do you pronounce it?
How do we pronounce Thanksgiving?
There you go. Ben, how do you say it? Like say, I'm going to, we're going to go eat a bunch of food for blank. There's a point to this. I promise there's a point to this. Ben, say next Thursday in this sentence, just rattle it off. Next Thursday is
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. You're correct. My wife and my best friend from my minor league days, Jake White, one of my best friends from my minor league days, who was the video board operator. He says, and he's a Pennsylvania guy, so I was wondering if maybe this was a thing, Ben. He says Thanksgiving. Doesn't say Thanksgiving. And my wife also says Thanksgiving. She's like, so when we go out there for Thanksgiving, I'm like, no, it's Thanksgiving. And now, for all of you tuned in, when you go to your holiday meal, take stock of who pronounces it what way, because there are some weirdos out there who are emphasizing the thanks and not the giving. And it's the giving that's the big important part. The giving that's what makes the holiday. You can have thanks any day, that thanks next Thursday. That's the biggest part. So, just saying.
I feel like you need to talk to your wife about this and not the general audience. I think this is something that needs to stay inside the Mon home.
No, this podcast has always been a safe space for spousal disagreement.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay. Yeah, I got a bombshell on Jill ready to drop.
We're gonna replace Name That Dude with I've got something to say.
Next episode on Name That Dude / we bring up a thing about our partners that we have slight disagreements over. All right, you guys, bunch of fun on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. If you would also like to get in touch with your favorite state shape that you would like to see made into a video board, please do. Podcast at MILB.com. And for Sam Dykstra and Benjamin Hill, my name is Tyler Maughan. We'll catch you next time on the Show Before the Show.